I am 32 years old today. I have exactly $333,000 in my savings account. My brother, who works in the same industry and earns pretty much the same salary as I do, has $14,000 to his name. People often ask how this is possible, assuming it's a stroke of luck, a hidden inheritance, or some secret high-stakes investment. But the truth is much quieter and much more profound. The difference between us doesn't come from our jobs, and it certainly doesn't come from luck. It comes from a singular, life-altering decision I made exactly 10 years ago, and from the 10 years of social pressure, mockery, and internal doubt that followed that decision. Think about it. I gave 10 years of my life to the same car. Let's go back. Exactly 10 years ago, I was 22. It was April, a sunny Saturday morning. I walked into a used car dealership with a pocket full of hard-earned cash. The salesman, a guy wearing a polo shirt at least one size too small, greeted me with that overly practiced charm. He called me boss, held my hand a few seconds too long, and squeezed it with an intensity meant to force a deal. He tried to walk me toward the shiny trucks, the leather-seated SUVs that screamed, "I've made it." But I stopped him. I stood next to a 2013 Toyota Corolla. It was silver gray, with a basic cloth interior and 71,000 miles on the odometer. There was a noticeable dent on the rear bumper. The salesman, trying to salvage his commission, called it character. I sat inside. The steering wheel was plain plastic, the seat felt stiff and unforgiving, and the cabin was painfully quiet. There was absolutely nothing about this car that would impress anyone I knew. I paid $9,400 in cash. I took the keys, and as I drove off the lot with the windows down, I felt a strange, quiet joy. It was the joy of a little person inside me, finally feeling safe. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a pen and a piece of paper. I did the math. $400 a month in savings. I looked at the 10-year projection. The number was so big, I had to read it twice just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. I folded that paper, tucked it deep into a drawer, and forgot about it. The next morning, the reality of my choice hit me at the gas station. Ego. At the office, I parked next to a coworker named David. David drove an expensive Audi, the kind he couldn't actually afford, though he wore it like armor. He saw me stepping out of my Toyota, and he laughed. "Bro, is this yours?" he asked, his tone dripping with mockery. "Did you lose a bet?" I just smiled. I didn't know then that this was just the beginning. A month later, I had lunch with James. James was 68, a veteran with 26 years in the finance world. He was my father's oldest friend, a man who rarely gave advice unless you forced it out of him. I felt proud of my deal, so I told him, "I got this Corolla at a really good price, James." James didn't say, "Good job." He didn't even smile. He chewed his food slowly, swallowed, and turned to me with a look that felt like a professor examining a failed student. "Do you know what a car actually is?" he asked. I felt smart, so I fired back, "It's a mode of transportation, obviously." James nodded, but his eyes were heavy. "Most people don't buy a car," he said. "They buy permission. Permission to feel successful. Permission to be seen by others. Permission to stop questioning who they are. That Corolla is the first thing you've bought in your life without buying permission." I laughed. I thought he was being dramatic. But James just wiped his mouth with a napkin and went back to his meal. I didn't know it then, but that was the most expensive lunch I'd ever had. As the years rolled on, the Corolla began to show its age. By the time I was 26, the seat creaked like an old ship, and the car had 89,000 miles. But the car was still a car. Then came a Tuesday morning laughing at. That afternoon, my younger brother, Michael, called. He was 23, 8 months into his first job. "I got a car," he said. He had leased a 2023 Acura. $490 a month, basically free, he claimed. That weekend, I went to his apartment. The Acura sat in the lot like a polished black bullet. Michael circled that car the way men circle things they know they can't afford. The mockery never stopped. David would ask, "Still driving a Toyota? Bro, are you okay? Like, financially okay?" I would tell him I was fine, but the way he said it made me feel like a charity case. One night at the grocery store, I saw a woman loading bags into a Range Rover. Her car was filled with cheap frozen meals. She looked at my Corolla, then at me. "Is that a 2013? She asked. I braced for the insult, but she smiled. "Smart. They last forever." That one sentence was the highlight of my year. It gave me a jolt of pride, but the doubt had already set in. I went home and opened the drawer. The paper was still there. The number had grown. I put it back, but I felt like a liar because I couldn't tell her the truth. I had $91,000 in my account. I wanted to tell her, but I didn't want to explain why I was choosing to live this way. By 30, the Corolla hit 136,000 miles. A new, ominous sound started coming from under the hood. I just turned up the radio and sang along. I was seeing Sarah then, a nurse who drove a 2019 Honda Fit. She never said a word about my car. But one Saturday at a friend's wedding, everything changed. It was a beautiful outdoor venue, white flowers, a string quartet. I parked in the back row with my Corolla, but the lot was packed with Porsches and Teslas. Sarah looked at the lot, then at my car. She wasn't mean, but she was honest. "Wow, Jordan is really doing well, isn't he?" she said. Jordan arrived in a brand-new, matte gray electric SUV. Michael hugged me, smelling like cologne that cost more than my weekly groceries. He looked at my car and said, "Bro, you should upgrade. You'll feel different." That night, Sarah was quiet. "I just want you to enjoy your money," she said. "Camry for 19 years, Marcus said. He wasn't cheap, he was free." That was the turning point. Something clicked in my brain. I realized I wasn't behind. I never was. Now, I am 34. The Corolla reached 198,000 kilometers and finally gave up the ghost. A head gasket failure. The mechanic said, $2,800. Honestly, I wouldn't fix it. I sat on the bench in the sun, looked at my $310,000 balance, and felt a peace I hadn't known in a decade. James called me that day. "Your father is proud of you," he said. "Do you remember what I told you? You didn't save money, son. You bought yourself." That night, Michael came over. He looked 50, though he was only 31. He was $94,000 in debt, credit cards, rent, and a watch he didn't need. "How did you do it, bro? Be honest," he asked. I made coffee and sat across from him. "I stopped buying permission," I said. Michael didn't get it then, but he will. The question was never, "What should I drive?" The question was always, "Who are you?" If you've watched this far, you've realized something that most people spend their entire lives missing. It's an incredible thing to wake up. Thank you for listening to my story. If you found this useful, please subscribe and like the video. It helps us keep sharing these truths. I'm really curious about your thoughts, so leave them in the comments below. Take care of yourself, my friend. Goodbye.